Keys through to last 16 as extreme heat triggers suspension at Australian Open. Melbourne, Australia. Extreme heat triggered a suspension of play on outside courts at the Australian Open on Saturday and briefly held up the match involving champion Jannik Sinner before his encounter resumed under a closed roof. Players, spectators, and officials roasted on Day 7 at Melbourne Park, where temperatures were forecast to hit 40 C in the late afternoon. The tournament has a heat stress scale of 1 to 5, with 5 the highest. It hit 5 in the early afternoon, when it was about 36 C, prompting the suspension. The third-round clash between Sinner and the American Elliot Spitzeri at Rod Laver Arena stopped for about 10 minutes, allowing time for the roof to shut. Play is suspended for all matches and practice on outside courts, the tournament said on X. Roofs on the courts that have them will close and remain closed for the remainder of the match. Earlier, women's defending champion Madison Keys reveled in the scorching temperatures to set up a last 16 showdown with fellow American Jessica Pegula. Matches started an hour earlier than usual because of the heat wave, and Keys had no intention of hanging about. She dismissed former world number 1 Karolina Pliskova of the Czech Republic 6-3. 6-3 on Rod Laver Arena in a statement victory that took just 75 minutes. After admitting to being nervous and timid in embarking on her title defense, this was more like the Keys that stunned Arina Sabalenka in the final a year ago. The 30-year-old Keys said that being based in Florida meant she was well used to baking temperatures. "I am feeling really good and I was excited for the heat today, and ready for it," she said. The 9th seed faces good friend and compatriot Pegula for a place in the quarterfinals. The 6th-seeded Pegula powered past unseeded Russian Oksana Seligmitova 6-3, 6-2 in 66 minutes. "Nice to be first out on court and not a super long match and didn't need to kill myself in the heat today," she said. Another title contender, Amanda Anisimova, made light work of fellow American Peyton Stearns in winning 6-1, 6-4. Anisimova has emerged as a major force in the past year, reaching the finals at Wimbledon and the U.S. Open. Multiple major winners Iga Swiatek and Naomi Osaka also both feature on Day 7 at Melbourne Park. Djokovic history bid. Serbian great Novak Djokovic faces 75th-ranked Dutchman Botic van der Zandschulp for a place in the last 16. The 38-year-old former world number 1 Djokovic is in the evening primetime slot on Rod Laver Arena. Djokovic has looked in imperious form in his 2 matches so far, yet to drop a set and striking a confident tone. Djokovic, who has been scaling back the number of matches he plays to wring the most out of his aging body, said, "It's all been positive so far, positive signs." Last up on center court is 2-time Melbourne Park champion Osaka, who wowed the crowds earlier this week when she emerged for her opening match in a jellyfish-themed outfit. On court she has not been so dazzling and faces home hope Madison Inglis, a qualifier. The winner goes up against either 6-time Grand Slam champion Swiatek or 31st-seeded Russian Anna Kalinske. Swiatek is aiming to complete the career Grand Slam of all 4 majors, with Australia the only one missing from her CV. Other top seeds in action include number 5 Lorenzo Musetti of Italy, who clashes with Tomas Machak of the Czech Republic. The winner goes up against either American 9th seed Taylor Fritz or the Swiss veteran Stan Wawrinka. The Melbourne sun did not rise that morning. It arrived like a verdict. By the time Madison Keys stepped onto Rod Laver Arena, the heat was already pressing down on the city, flattening shadows and stretching time. The air shimmered above the blue hard court, as if the surface itself were breathing. This was not just another Australian Open afternoon. This was survival tennis. Keys bounced the ball slowly before the first serve, eyes narrowed beneath the visor. She had played in heat before, every professional had. But this was different. This was the kind of heat that steals rhythm, blinds judgment, and turns rallies into tests of will rather than skill. Across the net, her opponent shifted restlessly, tugging at her skate, blinking hard against the glare. The umpire's voice cut through the haze. Time. And just like that, the match began. From the first point, Keys played with controlled aggression. Her serve cracked through the still air, a clean, violent sound that echoed around the stadium. Each forehand followed with intent, not reckless power but measured force, heavy enough to push, smart enough to wait. The crowd, fanning themselves with programs and hats, responded with a low murmur of appreciation. They understood what they were witnessing. This was not just about advancing to the last 16. This was about endurance. As the temperature climbed past 40 degrees Celsius, the match slowed. Between points, players leaned heavily on their rackets. Sweat darkened shirts within minutes. Ball kids moved like clockwork, trained for these moments, swift and precise despite the conditions. Keys, though, looked composed. She shot in points when she could, stepped inside the baseline when opportunity appeared, and resisted the temptation to overhit. It was veteran tennis, smart tennis. Every change over, she wrapped ice towels around her neck, eyes closed, breathing steady. Midway through the second set, the inevitable happened. A long rally ended with a mistimed backhand into the net. Keys bent over, hands on knees. The umpire paused. Tournament officials appeared courtside, conferring quietly. The heat policy, long discussed, often criticized, had been triggered. Play suspended due to extreme heat. A ripple moved through the crowd. Some groaned. Others nodded knowingly. This was Australia in January. The sun always has the final say. Keys walked to her chair, accepting a cold towel, her expression unreadable. Suspensions can be dangerous for momentum, especially when a player is in control. But if she was frustrated, she did not show it. She sipped electrolytes, stretched carefully, and stared into the distance, as if rehearsing the rest of the match in her mind. When play resumed hours later, under softer light and a marginally kinder temperature, Keys returned with the same calm authority. The pause had not cooled her edge. If anything, it sharpened it. She broke serve early, punishing short balls with flat, fearless winners. Her forehand, long her most reliable weapon, dictated play, dragging her opponent wide and opening the court. The points were still physical, still demanding, but now they belonged to her. The final game was brief and,